The first step in being a successful leader is learning to lead yourself.
It starts with personal integrity. It's one thing to say, I know I need to get physically fit. I'm going to start tomorrow doing 200 push-ups a day, and I'm going to do 200 push-ups a day forever. Well, you're probably kidding to yourself. So you've kind of set yourself up for failure. And if you don't do that, you're going to lose personal integrity. So you need to build personal integrity with yourself, and then your team will sense that, and they'll be much more willing to follow you. But
sometimes that process takes a little longer than we think it should.
It was based on this idea that it takes 21 days to build a habit, which nobody knows really where it came from. It just popped up on the internet and people have grabbed it and run with it. And so I do these things for 21 days and think, okay, I've got it. And I'd stop thinking about it. And then another couple of weeks later, that habit was completely gone. And I thought, well, this is no good. So, but apparently there's some actual research that shows that 66 days is a number that you can use. And I would highly doubt that is the exact number for every habit, but that does seem to be true. So in my experience, when I started things for about, you stick with it for about 2 months. Some habits might take 100 days. I don't know, but sticking with it for a longer time and you reach automaticity, you can really build habits that actually last.
We're going to discuss all that and more on this episode 453 of the Working Cows podcast with Josh Kirpin, brought to you by Red Summit Advisors and Ranch Right.
Welcome to the podcast that gives producers a platform to discuss and share paradigm-challenging practices. Practices that have increased the effectiveness of their operation and the joy that their families have received from this lifestyle.
Howdy, everybody. It's Clay Connery, host of the Working Cows podcast, recorded exclusively in the Understanding Ag studios. Very excited to be joined once again by Josh Kirpin. He is the leader at Kirpin Farms, but he's also with KZN Solutions, a consulting company that he started to help people learn to lead successful businesses. And the journey that he's been on has been that he developed a business that could run without him there all the time. And then he had to figure out what he was going to do because the business didn't need him to run. He had replaced himself, and we talked to him about that on an earlier episode. And so now he's been on this journey of helping other people learn to lead successful businesses that don't need them to be there all the time to run them. And today we're going to talk to him about how we lead ourselves as leaders. How do we get control of ourselves and lead ourselves so that other people will be excited to follow us? And we'll have that conversation. I'll share that conversation with Josh with you right after a word from our sponsor today, Red Summit Advisors. At Red Summit Advisors, Austin Hart doesn't guess when it comes to structuring your PRF coverage. While most agents run a handful of cookie-cutter options, Austin uses their proprietary software to analyze every grid, every coverage interval, every combination, so your policy fits your land, your rainfall history, and your operations goals. PRF and LRP insurance are about managing drought and protecting cattle prices year after year, giving your ranch a fighting chance when weather or the market doesn't cooperate. And with Red Summit Advisors, you're never left wondering. Austin gives you 24/7 access to your policy's progress, so you know exactly where you stand all season long. If you already have PRF coverage, it's worth asking, could your policy be doing more? Austin Hart is ready to take a hard look at your current policy and show you what's possible. Get started today. Visit redsummit.com/pod for 3 instant, no-obligation quotes, or call Austin directly at 307-343-5670. Red Summit makes PRF easy so you can keep your family on the land. Call Austin Hart at 307-343-5670 today. Josh, thanks for joining me again on the Working Cows podcast. Welcome back.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Oh, glad to have you back. Always good to talk people management. I think it's one of the things, again, just keep on quoting Dallas Mount. When we talk about the barriers to success in ranching, without a doubt, it's the people. That was his word on episode 2 of the Working Cows podcast. And it bears it out. I think if we don't manage people well, those things are going to simmer under the surface for a long time. But then there's just that catastrophic failure seems like can happen if we're not paying attention to how we care for our people and being prepared to lead them ourselves, right? Is that kind of how you see it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we get caught up a lot of times in agriculture looking at our different assets, and obviously the soil is a great asset to us, and we give it a lot of credit and claim that it's our number one asset. I will turn that around a little bit. I think that the people are. It's all about the people.
Mm-hmm.
Your people are your number one asset. They can also be a significant liability if they're not led and managed properly. Even if you're just a one-man operation, your people, your person is still your greatest asset or liability. And that's really what it's all about. If you want to unlock the potential in your business and what it can do for you in your life, you're going to need a team of people of some sort, whether you're outsourcing work or bringing people in to work with you. And you're going to need to be able to lead and manage those people. But in order to be able to lead and manage other people effectively, I think you need to be able to lead and manage yourself first. In my story, that was step number one for sure. When I looked at bringing in people, I'd started bringing in people and realized that I didn't have the skills and knowledge to lead them yet. And part of that was that I really wasn't leading myself in an effective way. So I had to step back and lay that foundation to be able to lead myself first and then become the leader of a team. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And just as a production note here, I'm muddling through with the post-branding season cold, so if you hear a little bit of that in the recording today, my apologies, but I'll try to keep it to a minimum. But yeah, the issue of leading yourself is a big part of that, and if we're not intentional about making investments in the people we're leading, those things are going to become issues. Those relationships are going to become strained. But also, we've got to be intentional about making investments in ourselves, making investments in us as leaders, and not just in our leadership capacity, but I would guess you're thinking of a multitude of other areas as well, right?
Absolutely. You have to invest in yourself first. That is the first place to invest, because you, as the leader of your business or your family or your organization or anything, you set the limits of the potential of what your business or family or organization is capable of. So, in order for you to increase the potential that they're capable of, you have to increase your own potential. So, I mean, for me, really probably the number one life principle that I live by is the idea of growth or death. And the desire for increase is inherent in all nature. It is the fundamental impulse of the universe to continue to increase, and that applies to all living things, ourselves, the plants and animals around us, our businesses. Nothing is immune to that. You can run from that principle, but you can't hide. So our businesses need to continue to grow and increase. And that doesn't necessarily, I mean, we've talked about it before. That can look like a lot of different things. It doesn't need to mean doubling the carrying capacity or doubling your herd or doubling your acres or doubling anything. It can just mean getting better, but you have to be increasing and improving all the time. When people look to invest in a business on Wall Street, the first thing that they're going to look for is, are they growing? What is their growth like? And if they're not growing, they're not going to invest. And if your business isn't growing, you shouldn't be investing in it, whether it's your time or your money. So you need to be always looking at ways to increase your business, your farm, and your ranch. And if you're going to do that, then you're going to need to consistently increase yourself and your own skills and abilities in order to be able to do that. So that's why investing in yourself first is absolutely the most important thing.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to the beginning, right? What was the creation mandate? Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. I mean, that we're continuing to grow, continuing to go forward, continuing to increase and bring order out of chaos, and I think that's really what we are here to do and what we were created to do. And so, I think it lines up with what you're talking about, that there's this desire for growth and desire for increase. So what are some of the ways that you are thinking about investing in yourself? You say that's first. That's the first thing we've got to do. If we can't lead ourselves, and if we can't invest in ourselves and become better leaders, then we can't positively impact the resources that have been entrusted to us, and that's land, animals, money, and people, right? So how do we go about doing that, investing in ourselves?
So I look at it as three pillars to personal growth. Mental and emotional would be one, physical would be two, and spiritual would be three. So if you picture yourself as placed upon these three pillars, you are only going to be as good as your poorest pillar. And a lot of us are strong in one of those areas, maybe, or maybe two of those areas, and we're weaker in one of those areas. And if we don't, you're only as good as your weakest link or your shortest pillar, I suppose. And if we get too far out of balance, then the whole thing will just tumble down. So the step number one is recognizing, I guess, where you might be weakest on those three pillars, and then attacking that, and continuously just reassessing where you're at, and which pillar you need to look at next, and to make sure that it's keeping up with everything. So for me, when I first embarked on this journey and really recognized how much I needed to grow in order to become the leader I wanted to, a lot of that was based around the mental and emotional game. Emotions are an interesting thing. It's not about subduing them. It's really about navigating them and understanding them. And I really had to do that really well. If you're not an emotionally stable leader, you're not going to have an emotionally stable family, organization, business, farm, ranch, you name it, right? So being able to manage your emotions is really important. And that's been a really fruitful journey for me. And most recently, I kind of recognized that the pillar that was lagging was my physical growth, and I just wasn't having the physical energy that I needed to be able to be the leader that I needed to. So that's kind of what I've been attacking here lately. But those are the three pillars that I look at when you're talking about personal growth and deciding where to invest. And then you kind of look at wherever you feel that you're falling short at this particular point in time, and invest in that place.
Yeah. What are some of the indicators for mental and emotional health in your mind?
What state are you in on a consistent basis? So, I when we talk about mental and emotional, we'll separate them a little bit. There's mental skills and knowledge and that type of thing, and a lot of times you do need to grow that. But we'll talk a little bit more on the emotional side of things and the mental health side of things. But recognizing what state you're in and really being mindful of that. So, your emotions create your state. Your state dictates the quality of your life. If you can control your state, you can control your destiny, effectively is what it comes down to. So that means if you can control your emotions, you can largely control your destiny. So being very aware of where you're at emotionally on a day-to-day basis, understanding the role that anxiety plays in life, and how we're hardwired for survival as human beings, and how we've got that dial turned up way too high for the way that we live life, because we've effectively eliminated most of the serious threats to our short-term survival, and we're wired to be looking out for those things all the time. So having a deep understanding of that is really, really, really handy. But yeah, just your emotional stability and your state. Where are you at? Where do you feel like you're at on a day-to-day basis? And do you have any control over that? What's your level of control?
And you're thinking here, you should have control over it, but maybe you're not in control of it currently. Is that kind of what you're talking about there? Or are you talking more along the lines of, there are some things you can control, focus on those, work on making a positive impact there, and then recognize also there are some things you can't control, and spending time worrying about the things you can't control isn't going to be positively beneficial?
Both of those are true. I think that when I'm talking specifically about recognizing your emotions, I don't think that you can always control the emotions that you feel, but you can control how they affect your life. And that really comes down to Covey's principle of recognizing, feeling that emotion, and then creating some space in between the time that you feel that emotion and the time that you take action based on that emotion. And that's the difference between being proactive and reactive, right? So, and that really just comes down to training yourself to be very mindful moment to moment of how you're feeling. So if you're feeling something welling up inside of you that used to cause you to come unglued, if you can recognize that and head it off at the pass, now you can create a little bit of space between the trigger and how you used to react to it, and you can become proactive about it. So you can't always control how you're feeling, but you want to control what you can control, which is how you react to how you react to how you feel, or how your emotions and the triggers in your life.
Yeah, it's the difference between being controlled by your emotions, or being in control, at least of the way that those emotions are expressed. Right?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And for me, what I've learned recently, okay, so coming up on 18 years as a pastor here, 19 years as a pastor here, I guess, in December. And so this will sound weird to say this, but what I've learned recently is about how practical the Bible actually is. So Philippians says, be anxious for nothing, but in all things by prayer and supplication, let your requests be made known to God. And I have come to realize that anytime we have an anxiety, if we're a Christian, we should look at that as an invitation from God to pray and say, I trust you to take care of this. I trust you to oversee it. I trust you to work it out. I'm going to do what I can do. I'm going to take my part, but I trust you to oversee it, and I'm not going to allow it to control me, right? This anxiety. And so I think that's an example of how I approach those things, and how I think is, some people might call that mindfulness, but that's my approach to it, I guess.
Yeah, I think it is one and the same. Absolutely. Prayer, mindfulness, meditation, it's a bunch of different terms for really the same thing, and that's connecting with God at a very deep level, and building and trusting in your faith. Life, I think, is just a bunch of series of challenges and then coming up with solutions to those challenges. So what is anxiety? Well, anxiety is some sort of challenge that you don't understand yet. It is a fear of the unknown. So we don't currently have a solution for whatever this might be in front of us. So we feel some anxiety about it. Now, we need to create a solution. And people with a big ego like me think that we can create these solutions on our own. But the reality is nothing is created on our own. We create everything in partnership with God. And this is from Lessons for Life by Phil Stutz. It was really cool. It was a really poignant lesson for me at that moment in time. But you need to just trust in time that the solution for the problem will come up. So whenever you're facing a problem that you don't know what the solution is, if you just pay attention to what happens in the hours, days, weeks, I don't know the timeline following, you will notice that a solution comes up. And what has really happened is you planted the seed of this problem in your mind and basically said, we need to come up with a solution. And God is the imagination and access to all ideas that have ever been and are yet to be. And he's going to provide you with the answers to that. The thing is, people grow their egos when they get these epiphany ideas, thinking that they're so smart, and really, it's just an idea from God, right? I mean, that's the idea behind it. So it's about being still enough and allowing some time to pass and trusting in God's timeline, that process is going to come. And if you have full faith in that, and it's very easy said, much easier said than done, but if you have full faith, there's really no need to ever feel anxious about anything.
James chapter 1, ask for wisdom and he will give to you generously. God gives generously to the wisdom to those who ask him. And I think, again, there's that thing. I'm not going to let this control me. I'm not going to let this overwhelm me. I trust God. He'll bring the solution in time. He'll give me the wisdom to see the solution in time, and I'm going to move on with the rest of the things, not allow this anxiety to cripple me from being able to take care of my family, my people, the responsibilities I've got. That's, I think that's how we're supposed to approach these things. Let's take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsor today, Ranch Right. There's nothing artificial about the intelligence of the team at Ranch Right. They're a group of super crunchers, accountants, HR advisors, and succession specialists with the knowledge and desire to provide you with actionable financials so you can build a profitable business that creates generational wealth. Having a team of people that live and breathe these topics beats the pants off taking a shot in the dark with the latest Silicon Valley large language model. Don't assume AI got it right. Enlist Ranch Right today so you can know that you have all the information you need to make the best decision for the future of your ranch. Head on over to ranchrightllc.com today to take advantage of their real world experience so you can have clarity and confidence in the future of your business. No robots were harmed in the making of this advertisement.
Yep.
So
Yep. Absolutely.
are there more practical things or pieces to this mental and emotional well-being or leading yourself mentally and emotionally that you would say have made a real difference for you?
Yes. So, journaling, mindfulness, meditation, prayer, you call it what you want. For me, it's been meditation in particular, like the practice of meditation so that I can control my thoughts and just become more aware of what they are on a minute to minute basis so that I can recognize when something is coming and sort of head it off at the pass. So that's been really important. Journaling's been great. There is just something about writing things down. And I don't know that you can accomplish the same thing typing it in your phone. Maybe you can, or making a video journal. But writing things down just takes big problems and makes them very small, the size of letters on a page, and now they all of a sudden become very manageable. So that's really, really, really helpful. Those have been the two biggest ones. The one thing, I guess, that really can control, your physiology with your mental state is focusing on your breath. And there's like so many different breath work exercises you can do. And I just thought it was all sort of, a mysticism and just bizarre. It just always seemed bizarre to me that you could make these big changes in your body and your mind by the way that you breathe. But I mean, that's the way God created us, and it really does work. So there's a lot of different ways that you can breathe. If you want more energy, you can breathe for more energy. If you want to calm down, you can breathe to calm down. If you want to be more mindful, you can. Breath is basically the best way to do it because we breathe automatically. It's like the base function that we do without thinking. And so when we actually think about breathing, it hacks that loop and we get into an active thinking mode. So breathing and just a lot of different breath work is another really good tool for that.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I'm at on all that. I have thought a lot about it. I've heard other people talk about it in different streams. And one thing I know is, like you said, God created us and he created us as whole beings. And so to think that we can just separate mental and emotional and physical and spiritual, and that we can separate all these things and put them in silos and say, okay, now I'm just going to focus on my mental state and it's not going to impact me emotionally or spiritually or physically. I think that's misguided thinking. I think that we're whole beings. This whole podcast was started under the influence of holistic management, and I think that we need to start to realize that we are whole beings as well, and that none of these pieces can be neglected without impacting the others. Is that resonate or true in your experience?
Absolutely. And that's why I like to visualize it as the three pillars, because as one changes, it absolutely affects the other, and it affects the balance of your life and how you feel, how you perform as a human. So yes, absolutely agree. 100%.
Yep. So we've talked a little bit, you and I, actually, about the physical piece of this, the pillar of the physical piece, and your journey and some of the things that motivated that. I'm not sure if that was bonus content or main episode content, but maybe we could review that a little bit and think about some of those pieces of the physical and your journey related to that, and then also just kind of the impact of it and thinking about it generally as well.
So for me, this physical transformation that I've been on a journey of wasn't so much about how I looked. For sure, it was really that I wanted to feel better, and I was just recognizing as I reached midlife here, or something, what used to be midlife at 40 years old, that I was definitely feeling different physically than I once was. I was having lots of back issues and things like that, so I wanted to feel a lot better. And I guess it comes down to the principle of growth or death, and physically that's absolutely true. So we get to this point in our lives and we have physiologically accomplished a lot of what we were put here to do, but we still have a lot that we can accomplish. So, but we start decaying, we start going backwards pretty early in life, really physically, and you need to go to work to actually reverse that as much as humanly possible. So when you start building muscle, you start physically growing again, and you will feel completely differently. And how that contributes to your mental and spiritual health is really pretty significant as well. Another big takeaway from the physical side of it isn't, you've got to take care of yourself and do the actions and do the working out and et cetera, et cetera. But your nutrition is incredibly important. What you feed yourself is incredibly important. And I'm not just talking about physically. Okay. That is just as important mentally and spiritually. And I think we forget about that a lot of times, right? So we allow ourselves to be fed basically the equivalent of junk food from a mental, emotional, and spiritual standpoint on a pretty regular basis. And we really need to be very careful about what we put in our body. So if we're trying to lose weight, we really count our calories. Well, we need to count our mental, emotional calories, is very mindful about what we're putting into our mind, as much as we are about what we're putting into our bodies when we're trying to get physically more fit.
Yeah, absolutely. Oftentimes, like when I'm ready to go to bed, I don't really want to read. I don't feel like mentally focused enough to read, but I'll watch something on my phone before I fall asleep, and I wonder how much better off I'd be if I just put the phone down and just went to sleep. Just go to bed. Don't just sleep. I think that's a big part of it too. Sleep is a huge part. It's depending on how many hours a day you're sleeping, you're up to a third of your life, maybe more, maybe less, but a big portion of your life is spent sleeping, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess in that situation, it would depend what you're watching on your phone, because what you put into your mind, especially right before you go to bed, is going to have a pretty profound impact on the way your subconscious works on that as you're sleeping, right? So pretty important to do that. And that kind of brings up a book by Ben Hardy, Dr. Benjamin Hardy. He's wrote a couple of things in conjunction that are with Dan Sullivan that are really popular, but he's done some work on his own. He's an organizational psychologist, but really, really good stuff. And one of his books that I really appreciated was Willpower Doesn't Work. So that would be, for me, I mean, I'm addicted to my phone just like everybody else, and I'm going to admit it. That's just the way that it is, and to play it off any other way would be, I wouldn't be honest with myself. So I have to leave my phone out of my bedroom, or else I will grab it before I go to bed. And maybe I can tell myself I'll control what I'm going to look at before I go to bed, but that erodes over time too. So understanding how your self-discipline and how your willpower works, and the fact that it is weakest at the end of the day, you can start controlling your environment to force yourself basically to make better decisions. And so the one thing I've done is I leave my phone and all electronics downstairs when I go to bed, just so that's it's not an option for me to do it. So but his book on that is really important, because the idea of willpower and discipline is critically important, and we have to have it. It's like a muscle, right? You develop it over time, but at the same point, it can get exhausted throughout the course of the day. So it's reasonably strong in the morning, and then every time you make a decision, it gets eroded. And by the end of the day, if you've made a lot of decisions that day, even simple decisions like what am I going to wear, it erodes your ability to make a good decision. And by the end of the day, you're likely going to make poorer decisions than you would first thing in the morning. So there's a whole bunch of reasons then why you would front load your day with your most important tasks and stuff. But the idea of just being super disciplined, and that's going to get you through life, that's not enough, because you can't be physically strong enough to do everything. You can't be mentally strong enough to do everything. You have to understand your limits and work within them.
Yeah, I think that just recognizing how many things in your life are actually muscles, discipline is a muscle. I think journaling is probably a muscle. one of those things that you're probably not going to be real great at the first time you try it, but you should stick with it and keep doing it, and it will get better over time. Has that been true in your experience with journaling specifically? I meant to ask you that earlier, but
I tried for years. I should like a number of years, and I just really struggled with it. It was so bizarre, so foreign to me to sit down and write. Like, what do you write about? So, some guided journals is really what got me going on that, and having an idea of what to write. And then exactly like you said, you kind of build that skill, that you build that competency, and then you can start doing it on your own, and deciding what you want to do. But there's a few little journaling tools that I really like, and I still will go back to. One is writing a letter to your future self, especially if you just feel like you're up against a wall, and you're battling, and you're going to get through it. It's just a matter of time and trusting in time, and writing a letter to your future self after this is all past, and how good it's going to be. And it puts you in that mindset of what it will be like to be on the other side of this challenge. So that's a nice one. Gratitude journaling is always good. I mean, writing down the things you're thankful for is a good thing. But there's lots of different guided journals. I've developed actually a daily planner. I call it the Daily Compass. Really, it's designed to keep you on track with what's most important for agricultural producers. Because I tried for a few years also to really plan out my days, and I bought daily planners, and I would write out my tasks hour by hour. And in agriculture, you leave the door, and within an hour, your entire day is shot because something has happened that you didn't plan for. So now everything in your whole plan is shot, and you've got to redo it. So I've kind of made it a planner that is just based on focusing on a few different tasks, and then also some mindfulness and some. It could help you get started in the journaling side of things as well. So, but prompts and guides really helped me to get started because it was very, very awkward, very difficult to get started.
Yeah. I think that was a helpful insight that you shared about mental junk food too, and I think that also physical junk food, right, isn't good either. It is going to impact the way that you think. It's going to impact a lot of different areas of your life, kind of back to that idea that we're whole beings. And so just talk to me about some of the things that you have realized from that perspective of what you eat and how, and how you eat, and some of those things and the difference that that's been making.
So just tracking everything that you eat, number one, and becoming mindful of what you're putting into your body, is really eye-opening, I guess, and how many calories a person can eat versus how many calories you can get by on. Like, really, I couldn't believe how few calories I was eating for a while and still had tremendously good energy. For me, I know, and I have known for a long time, that sugar is like my kryptonite. It makes me feel awful, and I can't have a little bit. I can't do moderation with sugar. I'm like the Cookie Monster. If I have a little bit drop, if it hits my tongue, I'm going to eat all of the cookies till they're gone. So, to Ben Hardy's book's point, what we've done is created a sugar-free house, because for me, I can't have it. I'm like an alcoholic. You got to get alcohol out of the house. I'm a sugarholic. I need it out of the house. So we don't have it. I control my environment that way. So sugar's been really bad, and I think that is one of the things that is kind of pretty bad for everybody. I think nutritionally, there's a lot of information out there. People think that keto is the end all be all, or carnivore, or caveman, or whatever it is. Well, I think that everybody's body works a little bit differently, and everybody's ideal diet is going to be a little bit different. I think ideally you stay away from packaged stuff as much as possible would be really good. But finding what works for you is probably the biggest thing. And the way to do that is to track it and just be mindful of what you're actually putting in your body. Same thing that you're mindful of your thoughts and the things, your thoughts are nutrition, mental nutrition, your biggest form of mental nutrition. So when you become mindful of your thoughts, just like you're mindful of your food, you'll see a big difference in what you're willing to put into your body and what you're willing to not.
Yeah. I think that just highly processed foods probably start there, right? Just start with the highly processed foods, get those out, and then start finding out the other things that just pay attention, put it in your body. Well, how does that make you feel? How does that make you able to or less able to focus? And I think all that food is fuel. You put good fuel in, you're probably going to get better performance out. And, you know, if you feel better because of what you ate, you're more likely to feel like working out. But again, sometimes those things are also about doing what you don't feel like doing at the moment and pushing through that resistance, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it comes down to discipline and making sure that you are doing the hardest things while you have the willpower to decide to do that. So for me, the working out, I would put that off if given the chance any day of the week. So I'm doing that first thing in the morning. I'll drink my first cup of coffee, and sometimes I'll journal first, but I'm going to work out in the morning because I know that if I leave that till my willpower is sapped a little bit, I will say no. And I haven't missed a workout. I think this morning was 156 in a row, and I haven't missed one. So that's like 8 months. And that's just because I've made myself do it first thing in the morning, because I know that I don't have an endless amount of discipline to make myself do it in the evening if I let it get to that point.
And what are some of the differences that's made?
Like working out in the morning, or
just the working out in general, you know, and some of the difference that it's made for you as a leader, you know, as a husband, father, you know, all those things.
Well, you feel a whole lot better, and when you have aches and pains that you're walking around with and you don't even recognize it, the way that shortens your temper, shortens your ability to deal with people's mistakes and misthinkings. You know, it makes a big difference. So when you feel good all the time, you're much more likely to make good decisions, to be proactive versus reactive. So that's been big. I guess for me, because the working out is the part that I don't necessarily always enjoy. I get to start every day with a win by doing the hardest thing in my day first, right? And that's really big. So whatever it is for you, whether if it's journaling or reading or whatever you don't like to do, if there's something you know you need to eat to feel good and you don't like to eat it first thing in the morning, and you start with a win, plus you get it done, it cleans the rest of your day off. So that's been great.
Yeah. And I think, you know, diets are like, or exercising is like diets. There's different types of exercises are going to work better for different people and different body types than others. You know, so that caveat stated, what have you been doing? What has your exercise regimen been?
So I've done various things over the last number of years, and none of them made me feel that great until I started lifting heavy things. And that really made a big difference. So resistance training, weights, like really trying to build muscle versus just doing cardio and that type of thing. That seems to me like it's been a game changer for me. And my wife, Paula, would agree with that. She hadn't done a lot of that until we started this program with this coach that we hired, and that made a huge difference.
Yep. And yeah, so I think similar to the diet thing, right? Keto, carnivore, caveman, whatever it is, probably they all start with getting the highly processed foods out. Exercise, you know, body weight, high intensity interval training, you know, lifting heavy things, all of it relates to movement, you know, and intentional movement. And there's going to be varying degrees of return on investment depending on what you do. But I'm hearing what you just said from lots of different places, that really the big difference is lifting heavy things. And so I'm thinking, again, you start to hear these consistent testimonies from different places. It starts to be like, well, maybe we should look into this a little bit more. And so there's lots of great opportunities out there for people to find, even now, remote coaches who you video yourself lifting, send them the video, and they say, okay, that was pretty good, but work on this part of your form, and it'll make the results better. Is that kind of how your relationship works?
Yep. And better results, you know, avoid injury, that type of thing. But yeah, my coach is in the UK based actually. And I wasn't really looking for one when I signed up, and I knew that this was a hurdle that I wanted to tackle, and I hadn't been able to do it on my own. And hiring a coach was 100% the difference maker. And The plan was one thing. I think you can get a or a fitness plan from a lot of different places that would work, but the accountability was the biggest thing, and that personal relationship, knowing that my coaches invested in me and wanting to see me succeed was it just made all the difference in the world, and it just instantly took and made, yeah, I don't know, it was one of the best decisions I've made in a very long time.
Yep. And one that I know a lot of people who have used and really appreciated is Matt Reynolds at Starting Strength. So if anybody's looking for something like that, he does exactly what Josh is talking about. And I've got a lot of people I'm aware of that have been working with him and enjoying what he's been able to help them accomplish. So let's talk a little bit more kind of about habits, the importance of habits, the nature of habits, and just kind of flesh some of that out that we've already talked about a little bit, if there's more there that you wanted to say.
Well, I think it's important to understand that we are programmed to basically form a habit out of as much as we possibly can. So, and there's a really good reason for this, because our brain wants to conserve its thinking power for doing higher level processing. So we will take anything we can and turn it into a habit. That's cool as long as we're using that extra thinking power for the right reasons, number one. And number two, we need to be mindful of the habits that have been formed because a lot of them aren't so good. Like even just thinking about the way that you bend over to put on your boots or tie your shoes. Well, not a big deal, and really not a big deal. Probably the first 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000 times you do it, but 15 or 20 years later, your back hurts because you've been bending over to tie your shoes wrong for a long time because of this habit. And that's the type of thing that can set you on the wrong path, and you don't even recognize that it's happening, and then it's the idea of compound interest, but going in the wrong direction, right? So small changes over time make a big impact. Well, that's the way that it can make a big impact in a negative way. So once you understand how much of our life we live basically automatically, we're doing unconsciously, you can start recognizing those habits and hacking them. So your bad habits, you can't replace the bad habit. You will keep doing it. They're there. They're in your programming forever, but you can replace them. You can't get rid of them. You can't eliminate them. You can replace them. Sorry.
Yep.
So you have to form a good habit to go over top of that bad habit. For me, I had recognized a number of habits that I wanted to change, and I had some habits that I wanted to replace them with, and I was having a tough time doing it. And a lot of it was based on this idea that it takes 21 days to build a habit, which nobody knows really where it came from. It just popped up on the internet, and people have grabbed it and run with it. And so I do these things for 21 days and think, okay, I've got it, and I'd stop thinking about it, and then another couple weeks later, that habit was completely gone, and I thought, well, this is no good. So, but apparently, there's some actual research that shows that 66 days is a number that you can use, and I would highly doubt that is the exact number for every habit, but that does seem to be true. So, in my experience, when I started things for about, you stick with it for about 2 months. Some habits might take 100 days. I don't know, but sticking with it for a longer time, and you reach automaticity, you can really build habits that actually last. Once you build a true habit, you can start habit stacking. And I think is that James Clear talks a lot about habit stacking in his home habit book. But I like the idea of the keystone habit. That was what was most important for me, was a keystone habit throughout the day, and I wasn't able to. And when I started my morning habit, that is really what changed everything for me. So I started getting up in the morning and doing those things that I knew that I needed to get done, that were never important enough to fit in the afternoon once things got busy. So I would miss them, and then I wouldn't do my 66 days, and the habit falls apart. Well, you get up in the morning and then that's done, and then you can stack another top of it. So the idea of the keystone habit was really important for me, and being able to stack new habits on top of that. So just understand habits. And there's really good reason for that. But we form a bunch of really bad habits as a byproduct of that. So then becoming, aware of your habits, aware of the cues, are the triggers. Then you can start heading it off at the pass, and habits repro itself have habits than the ones you might currently have. So
Yeah. Can you give me an example of a bad habit that you lay a good habit over top of?
well, geez, I could probably talk nutrition, like physical nutrition, what you're eating. So if you're eating sugar, and then that was your thing, for me, I will just impulsively go to the cupboard and grab something if I'm bored, right? So that's a habit of mine. I get bored, I go and try and grab a snack. Well, I used to grab something that was sugary if I could. So I got rid of that and I started grabbing something good. So I started eating vegetables instead of sugar. Well, that's a really good habit, overlaid on top of a bad habit. So now my habit of sugar is gone, but I've still got this habit of grabbing something every time that I get bored and grabbing something to eat. Well, that's not a great habit, especially if you can't always control what's around you to eat. So I have done a few things, like I started doing push-ups when I went to grab something out of the cupboard. Instead of grabbing something to eat, I'll force myself to do push-ups, which isn't as good of a reward as what the food was. So then I stopped going to the pantry to get something to eat. So the reward was negative and stopped the cue, if that makes sense. So that's a few little things I've done.
Yeah. No, I think that's helpful. Um,
And you can do that really with anything that you want to do. You just have to consciously, overlay it.
yeah. Yeah. No, that's helpful. I appreciate that. Is everything good on your end?
I'm hearing good. Yeah.
Okay, good. Everything's jumping around on me, so I don't know what's going on, but
okay.
Anyways. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think that is a helpful way of thinking about it and approaching the issues of habits. Let's shift a little bit and talk about kind of how all of this fits together and helps you to lead the people that you're leading better, lead your business better, and some of those kinds of things. What are some of the ways that you bridge that gap and bring that also into the team and some of those things?
So if you want to lead a team, I think you need two things in particular, and there's more to it than this, but A, they need to trust you, to trust that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. And B, I think that your team's going to want to know where you're going is another big thing, right? We're not going to just go hop on an airplane with a captain who says we don't have a flight plan, we don't know where we're going, we're just going to go up and mess around. So and that being said, I mean, we talk a lot about having vision for our businesses. You have to have a personal vision as well. You have to know where you want to go in life. That creates excitement for the future and it creates direction. Really, really important. I mean, really what you're doing with yourself is a microcosm of what you do with your business. You set your vision, you develop the person, and you have the processes, the habits, the systems in place to be able to support yourself to be the best that you can be. You need to have integrity with your team. Well, you need to have personal integrity. It starts with personal integrity. So it's one thing to say, well, I know I need to get physically fit. I'm going to start tomorrow doing 200 push-ups a day and I'm going to do 200 push-ups a day forever. Well, you're probably kidding to yourself. So you've kind of set yourself up for failure. And if you don't do that, you're going to lose personal integrity. So you need to build personal integrity with yourself, and then your team will sense that and have integrity for you. And they'll be much more willing to follow you. But you also need to have a really clear vision of where you want to go, where you want to take yourself, and where you want to take your team. And if you're building a business that's not congruent with your vision or your dreams for your life, then you really need to change your business. If you're doing anything in life that's not congruent with your dreams and your vision for your life, you need to really seriously think about changing that.
Yeah, and I think one example of that personal vision for yourself would be like for me, right? My oldest son is going to be 17 this summer, and we're starting to look at a whole new series of life changes for him and then also for us probably as a result of that. And here's an example. Like I want to be able to beat my grandkids in a foot race. There's an example of a personal vision. What am I going to have to do from here until I've got grandkids old enough to race me in a foot race and actually, be healthy enough to do that, when my grandkids are 10, 12, 13, 14 years old, and how am I going to have to manage my joints, my joint health and all those kinds of things. And I think that can become one of those motivating visions and things that can help you make those decisions early in the day. You talked about that earlier about setting yourself up for success when you have the willpower to make those decisions, do them first and make those decisions early. And here's another thing that lends credence to what you're saying. Just go and look at the calories that chess players burn. If you look at the calories that are burned in a chess match at a high level, those guys are burning an incredible amount of calories. And they're not doing anything physical, but their mind is so powerful. Your mind is so powerful and demands so much energy that it will burn an incredible amount of calories. And so when you start to think about, well, I'm working in an office and I'm making decisions, that's going to be demanding on you from an energy consumption perspective as well. And so you've got to be able to feed that and do some of those things early on. And so I think that is another piece that people should recognize as well. Is that along the lines of what you're thinking of when you think of a personal vision? Like, I want to be able to beat my grandkids in a foot race, and that's going to motivate me to make some decisions now that will set me up to be able to do that?
100%. Right? I mean, that can guide every step you take between now and then. So now when you have a decision, am I going to sit and eat donuts and watch Netflix, or am I going to get up and go for a walk and be active? Well, you know what you want to do. You know where you want to go. You know what the right decision is. Now it's up to you to make it and set yourself up to consistently make the right decision. But it's really that simple. If you don't know that that's where you want to go, that you want to be able to win that foot race, then you don't know what the right decision is, whether you're deciding between the donuts or the exercise, right? So you have to know where you're going to know what the right decision is going to be.
Yeah. And did you mention what your keystone habit was? Is it the working out in the morning?
My whole morning routine. So,
Okay.
Yeah. And it involves, mindfulness, working, physical activity and learning of some sort. So a little bit of reading or a podcast, journaling, meditating, praying, and with some physical activity. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Well, Josh, I appreciate your time today. Is there more that you wanted to say regarding this subject, or other things that you think we got to get this included here towards the end?
I just would say that you got to take responsibility for the future of yourself and your business, and that's a heavy burden. There's no doubt about it. But either you take responsibility for your future, or you're giving it away to somebody else, to outside forces, and that's a lot scarier. So have the courage, summon the courage to take responsibility, and take these steps to design your bold vision for the future, and then make the good decisions to get there.
Very good, Josh. Let's talk a little bit about what you've got going on with your business, coaching and some of those things, and how people can get in touch with you and work with you for their future.
Yeah, so a couple of new exciting things coming up here now. We'll be launching the Dream Team program, which is a 6-module program. You can fast track it over 6 weeks, but it's probably better done over 12. And really, it'll give you the skills and the toolkit to be able to build, manage, and lead a great team, which will unlock you, whether you want to build your business or step back or just change it a little bit, take the stress off you. It'll allow you to do that. So we'll go through, identifying your next hire, recruitment, how to actually interview and score your candidates and make sure that you bring in the right people, how to onboard them and train them well, systems for communication, and we'll go over how to identify and let the wrong people go. That is as important as bringing in the right people, because you can have a great team, and one bad apple, can spoil the bunch, as they say, and that's really true. So that'll be launched here very shortly. Really excited about that, because I know the power of building a good team. We're hosting an RFP school in Edmonton in December 15th to 19th. So we're really, really excited about that. The impact that the Ranching for Profit school and the Ranching for Profit community has had on the trajectory of my life and my business. I can't overestimate that. So really excited to be able to bring that to Edmonton and be able to impact some ranchers and farmers up there.
Very good. And is that the 15th? Is that the 5-day school that they're doing now?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
You bet.
And so, business numbers, all those things.
Yeah.
No ecology, right? Or less ecology, maybe.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. You bet. Yeah. Yeah. It's just a condensed version, I think, and really focusing on the business side of it.
Yep. Very good. Well, yeah, Josh, as always, appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Very good stuff there with Josh. Really appreciate his perspective and the process that he's been going through, not only to master himself and lead himself and get control of his own life and body and making sure that he's accomplishing his goals, but also the way that that's fleshing itself out in his business and his family and in other things. So very excited to share with you next on the Working Cows podcast, a conversation that I had with Ryan Griggs. Ryan is behind the Regenaissance. You might call him the mastermind behind the Regenaissance, where he's talking to and traveling to all kinds of different farms and ranches and talking to them about their regenerative journey and about how they're trying to produce food that is better for the end consumer. So look forward to sharing that with you real soon on another episode of the Working Cows podcast. We'll see you then.
We invite you to visit workingcows.net to subscribe to the show via iTunes or Stitcher. You'll also find detailed show notes pages, resources from our guests, and the industry leaders who have influenced them. For more ideas on putting your cows to work for you in a more profitable way, tune in next week.